Hello, it's Mio and welcome to this little draw with me video where I will be drawing some monsters with the help of the symmetry tool in Procreate. So I did this same thing about 2 months ago and I really enjoyed making the monsters there and I thought it was really fun and relaxing, so I decided to do this again with 3 new monsters. So all of these monsters will only be drawn with the round brush in the painting section in Procreate, and of course the eraser and the smudge tool and the symmetry tool. Altogether, the drawings in this video took me an hour to make. They are all screen recorded and then put in double speed. The first drawing that I'm drawing right here is a monster inspired by Uma or Una, I don't remember the name exactly, but it is the ugliest man alive, or so they say, in The Witcher Wild Hunt, the video game. So in the game, the monster, or the cursed creature I guess, has one very tiny eye and one very big eye, and is kind of like a misformed type of human. But that creature, in my opinion, isn't really scary, so I wanted to amp it up a little bit and give it like this hanging mouth, and I also later on give it a lot of wrinkles and just try to make it as scary as possible. At this point it's kind of looking like a My Little Pony but zombified, which is not really what I was going for, but I kind of fixed that a little bit later. Here I'm trying to draw these wrinkles because this drawing was just not working for me. I didn't feel like it looked scary and I didn't have a clear enough vision when making it. So I tried fixing the eyes a little bit and then I put in the pupils and they were just looking really weird. I wanted them to kind of look a little goofy as well, so I added the eyeballs, or made them look in different directions, and then I tried to add some texture, see if that would make it more creepy. It did not. Then I added teeth, and I wanted the teeth to be kind of jagged and weird, which they are, but it just doesn't really look scary. Then I tried adding the nose, and again this is just not working, so I ended up scrapping this whole idea and started from scratch. But I want to keep like the more chibi theme, so something that is still kind of round and a little bit cute, and I thought that maybe a teddy bear would work for that. So I started with that and tried to make that scary later on. First it is just a base form with a little bit of fluff on the side. Then I decided on a button for an eye, kind of giving Coraline, and I shaded the button a little bit to make it nice. And I thought also that a button for an eye for a teddy bear isn't really all that scary, because that is kind of a normal thing to do. So I decided to kind of change it up for the other eye, which you will see in just a second. So for the other eye, I decided to start with just a gaping hole, which I wanted to shade a little bit. So it's like an empty eye socket. And I don't really know how empty eye sockets look, and I don't really care to look that up. So I just kind of went with what I thought they maybe looked like. I thought maybe it would be some texture in there. And also I decided to add the eye. So the eye is kind of falling out of the teddy bear. It's supposed to be a more of a realistic eye that teddy bears do not have. So hopefully that will make the drawing a little bit more creepy. So for this teddy bear, I feel like gore is kind of the best way to make it unsettling. So that's why I added the eye. The eye also needed some veins to try to make it a little bit more scary. And then I added a little bit more details with some just light and shadows, just to make it pop a little bit more. So after drawing the eye, I decided to draw or focus on the less gory parts of the face, because I didn't really know what else to do with a bear to make it look gory or more creepy. So meanwhile I just added some details like these stitches right here, which I decided to add because I wanted the bear to look a lot more homemade. Like the button eye already makes it look a little bit more homemade, so I thought that stitched would kind of amp up the homemade feel. Then I added some highlights. I always feel like highlights make any drawing look so much better, and it kind of motivates me to keep going. So after adding that, I just amped up a few more of the shadows before working on the little nose. And I really liked drawing this nose. It was really quick, but I think it turned out really good. And also I think it really helped to add some highlights to make it look extra shiny and plasticky. I also thought about maybe giving this bear teeth, but I thought that would be a little bit too weird, so I did not do that. But I did add ears. And then here I also kind of thought that maybe it would be cool to add one more like human element to the bear. So I decided to chop off the bear's head and then draw a brain. So the idea behind this drawing is kind of that somebody wanted to sew a living bear, or like make a teddy bear come to life by adding human elements to them, such as a brain, so that they would be a functional living friend. So the brain is still exposed, so maybe this is either before the bear was finished, or maybe it is after and the experiment failed. I am not decided on which one I find more unsettling. So I struggled a little bit with drawing this brain. I thought it was kind of hard and I couldn't really get it looking how I wanted to, but I also did not want to spend too much time on it because all of these drawings in this video are quite quickly made, and I tried to just move on. If I don't like something or it's not as good as I want it to be, I try to spend as little time possible fixing it. Drawing with the symmetry tool and making these little drawings is kind of like a relaxing time for me, where I'm not trying to get myself caught in an endless loop of fixing things or making things look perfect. It's just like a little doodle. If it doesn't look good in the end, that's fine. I didn't spend too much time on it. So I just added some highlights to the brain and said I was done with it, and then I added some more highlights in other places as well. So like the little button to make it look a lot more shiny, and then a little bit on the nose. And then I added a little bit of fur just to give it a little bit more texture. And that is pretty much it for the first drawing. Here is the final result. I think it turned out really cute. For the next drawing, I wanted to make something less gory but more scary looking in the face. And I also wanted to make a vampire, so I decided to add these two things together. My struggle that I often face while drawing monsters is that I normally draw a lot more cute stuff, or like humans that are cute in the face, and all the vampires I make are just cute girls with fangs and maybe a little bit of blood on their face. So here I wanted to kind of make the features a lot sharper and try to stray as far away from cute as I possibly could. So I made the mouth incredibly big, like unrealistically big, and then the teeth are a little bit smaller compared to maybe the mouth, and there's a gap between them. And I show a lot of the gums, just like if a dog was trying to like show their teeth. So I thought that would maybe help a little bit with the spookiness. And then I also see a lot of more traditional vampires with upturned noses like a bat, so I wanted to do that as well. And already with just these few elements, I feel like this vampire is turning out a lot more creepy than a lot of my other vampires, which is not hard to do, but still pretty good. And then I also wanted the teeth to be a little bit white, kind of shiny. I like to do that with most of my spooky drawings. I also did that a lot in my previous video that I made 2 months ago. And then I added some lips. That doesn't really add to the spooky factor at all, but I just thought it would be a cool feature. And then I tried to do some highlights, try to make these cheekbones a lot more prominent, try to make that more spooky. And then I will also be adding glowing eyes like I do with pretty much all of the drawings that I try to make spooky. I think that's just the most spooky thing that you can draw, is glowy or eyes that are lighter than the color of the whites of the eye. And then also a little bit of hair. This vampire needs a little bit of hair, but I also wanted to keep the forehead really large and have no eyebrows. The eyebrows aren't really a spooky thing. I just think that would make the forehead look a lot longer, which maybe looks a little bit more unsettling, or that's what I'm hoping for. The vampire ears get a little bit of like a fluff to them, or maybe they're just ripped a little bit at the bottom. I haven't really decided on what this effect is supposed to be, but I think it adds a little bit of a character to this drawing. I also decided to draw a little bit of a neck, which I don't do with the other drawings. I just thought that a very skinny, long, and a little bit of a wrinkly neck and very like wide shoulders would add a little something to this drawing. At this point in the drawing process, I was not really happy with the drawing because I didn't feel like it was scary enough, but I did see that in the little thumbnail when you open the layers that it looked a lot creepier there, and I thought that was maybe because of the darkness, because it has a darker background in the layer section. So I thought that I would darken up the face a little bit and then make the glowy elements a lot shinier in the hopes of the drawing becoming scarier. And I think this did wonders to the drawing. This also gave me the opportunity to make the main features of the drawing pop a lot more. So the eyes and the teeth, which are like the main things in this drawing, I would say. And I really liked it. At this point, here I was happy. This is how it's supposed to look. I also darkened up the forehead a little bit and added the final little detail, which was a little bit of blood running down the mouth and also a little bit on the cheek and the shoulder. So this is it for the second drawing, which I think turned out pretty good. Definitely the scariest vampire I made. For the last monster that I'm gonna be making with the symmetry tool today, I wanted to make a banshee. So I don't really know much about banshees. The only thing I really know is that it is like a screaming female spirit. And I often see them depicted with these very long mouths. So that is kind of what I'm going for. So I started off light, just making the form and kind of figuring out how I wanted to look. And then I took a break, turned off my screen recording, and came back and forgot to record for a bit. So this is how far I had gotten when I realized that I wasn't recording. So that really sucks. But basically what I did was just to make the form that I had before a little bit sharper, adding cheekbones and defining the eyes a little bit more, making them glowy, of course, and adding wrinkles. And here I am darkening up what I had to make the highlights pop a little bit better. And I also just learned that darker is better when it comes to the main colors, because it helps with the highlights and it makes the shadows easier to make. And that's just something that I learned by making the vampire, that darker also just can make it a lot scarier. So here I'm making the mouth. I wanted the mouth to look like just a gaping hole that if you look too much into, you will just sink in or something. Kind of like Pennywise from the remake of the It movies. So I work a lot more with light and shadow here because I have a lot more wrinkles and shapes to work with, which I think is really fun. So I added, over-exaggerated a lot of the wrinkles, adding crazy highlights to them. And then this character also has kind of an upturned nose, because I quite like that on the vampire. So this one is kind of inspired by the vampire, but I think I amped it up a lot, and I like this drawing personally a lot better than I like the vampire. I added some more highlights to the mouth to make it a little bit more gross, and then I wanted to make the teeth. And I decided on making these very long, thin teeth, kind of inspired by one of these worms from Dune and other types of monsters. There's a lot of monsters, like anglerfish has these teeth as well. That's not even a monster, but yeah, I think it adds a lot to the creepiness of it, and I also wanted them to kind of curve inwards. And then I just wanted to add some hair, and that was kind of the last part of this drawing. And I wanted the hair to look extremely thin, and like she only had a few hairs on her head, kind of inspired by Gollum from Lord of the Rings. I had to kind of redo that a couple of times until I was happy, but in the end I think it turned out pretty good, and here is the final result of this drawing. I fixed a couple of the highlights and such after filming and the hair, and this one turned out to be my absolute favorite of the bunch. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, I did this same thing 2 months ago. If you want to watch that video, I'll be putting that on the screen, but if not, I will see you again next week. Goodbye.